What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video today, I'm going to talk about the importance of being centered in our body, okay? And when I say centered here, I mean being at a point in our body where our body is able to relax, okay? Where our skeleton is perfectly aligned and stacked. And a lot of people will argue there's no such place, and I would actually agree with that. However, what we need to change in our body is our body's perception of center. You will always be moving around a point. The body is never fixed still in one central point. But the closer you can be to that, and the better and more aware your body can be of that central point, now the more options you have to move, okay? And I'm going to show you a very simple way that we teach our clients this, for most clients, in the very beginning, okay? And that's to find pressure into the midfoot and connect that with your glute, because ultimately that connection between the floor and where your center of mass and center of gravity is around this pelvis, this is what gives you the options to move, okay? So the reason why we want to be centered is because if we're not centered, if our body's perception of center is off, then more than likely we're holding tension in a certain way in order to keep ourselves balanced and keep ourselves upright. For example, if my center of mass starts to shift forward in my body and I start to get lots of pressure in my toes, and the further I come forward, eventually at some point I'm going to fall forward. So our bodies are smart and our nervous systems are smart. What they do is, if I start to drift forward, let's say I sit a lot, my hips become very compressed, our body will adapt by leaning our torso or leaning our rib cage backwards in order to keep me over my base of support, okay, on top of my feet. But again, that comes at a cost. It tends to compress the lumbar spine a lot. We tend to hold a lot of tension. We lose our rotation and our flexibility and mobility in our thoracic spine. And all these cascading events start to happen in our bodies. But if I can get myself back to a central position, now I have options to move in all directions, okay? I've got this central pivot point that I can now move around. And that's what makes movement effortless, and that's what makes movement efficient. And the result of that is generally that our joints, okay, our articular joints function in the way that they're supposed to, and so we don't hold unnecessary tension in our bodies. We don't develop these imbalances in length-tension relationships. We don't develop imbalances between our front side and our back side, okay? And so one of the things that we teach most of our clients is to be able to get their body weight stacked on top of one leg, because if you can do that in an effective way, you get pressure into your midfoot. When you get pressure into the middle part of your foot, now you have options to move in all directions. If I am caught more on my heels, if my weight is very much back on my heels, in order for me to move forward, what I first need to do is I need to shift my weight forward back to that central position, and now I can move. And on the other side of that, if I commit myself too far forward onto my toes, now I'm going to fall forward. And if I'm too far forward on my toes, it makes it more difficult for me to go backwards or to go sideways, okay? So this point on our midfoot is what, if I'm on my midfoot here, I can go this direction. I can switch and go this direction. I can go here, okay? I can step back here. But if we're on that midfoot and we're able to connect that with our center, okay, our pelvis, our primary hinge and pivot point in our body, then we have much more options to move. So getting that pressure forward, getting your new norm being on that midfoot and being able to load that into your backside, now you have options to move. Now, no matter what you need to do, you're ready to react, okay? So we need to get away from being all the time back on the heels or being all the time very far forward on the toes. We want this nice balance point where we're grounded down into the floor. And the way we teach this in our hip unlock program. It's a very specific protocol to teach you how to get your body weight on top of a single leg at a time, get the pressure to your midfoot and connect that up into your body's primary pivot point and hinge point, which is at your hip here, okay? If you're on your heel, if you're on your toes, now this pivot point gets locked up and you can't move effectively, okay? Movement needs to be initiated from the hip, and it needs to be connected with the floor, because that's ultimately what gives you that foundation to move off of. If you've not got this solid and in the right place, it locks everything up into the hip. And everything orbits and moves around that central point. If I go to the right, my body will always want to come back to center before it can go to the left. Okay, and the more central that you can be, it means the more potential you have to go right and the more potential you have to go left. Because if my body was somehow over to the right, now I'm restricted with how far I can go to the right, but equally I'm also restricted at how far I can go back to the left. So the closer we can get to center and work from here and move ourselves then in opposite directions, front, back, side to side rotation, getting back to that central point is key. And one thing that I have found time and time again is locking pressure into that midfoot and being able to connect that with the hip, teach your nervous system how to be grounded into the floor again. And that completely changes how your entire skeleton and how your entire body holds tension, but also how it moves, okay? So if you're interested in starting your journey on that and really getting that non-negotiable base and central point for your body to be able to move, then check out our 15-minute hip unlock protocol. That is step 1, that teaches you the specific leg shape alignment. Okay, this specific leg shape alignment, it teaches you how to get pressure into your midfoot, how to strengthen your soleus, and teach the soleus to work with the hamstring and the quad, and then ultimately to be able to load up that glute, fire that hip, and get you moving effortlessly as you were designed to do. The alternative is to keep doing what you're doing and end up in front of a surgeon, end up on physio tables over and over again and stuck in that cycle, and that's not a nice place to be. It's not a place that you want to be looking towards the next 10-20 years of your life with that in your visions. So that's it for today, guys. Drop a comment below. I'll leave the link to the program as well below, the 15-minute hip unlock protocol. You can check that out. This program has already changed people's lives, people who have had hip pinching and chronic pain for years, and literally within that first 15-minute session things change drastically. So check it out. Let me know in the comments if you've got questions, any other videos you'd like to see, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.